and I will call out the names: George Floyd, Breonna Taylor, Eric Gardner, Trayvon Martin, Michael Brown, Ahmaud Arbery, Tyrone West, Sean Reed, Robert Fuller, and Rashad Brooks. 9 seconds, a moment of silence. Thank you. So, as we do on all of our shows, we like to start off with the reflection as a tone of the discussion and the topics that we're going to be covering today. And today we will be reviewing two notable quotes. One is by an unknown author, and it reads, "You're never too young to change the world." Hence the panel that I have here today. So excited. And that was discovered by Justice and Victory Coalition. The next quote is by our very own beloved Nelson Mandela. And the quote reads as such: "The youth of today are the leaders of tomorrow." So thank you for tuning in to support our future by supporting our youth. Now, as we normally do, we're going to review our sun enlightenments. And these sun enlightenments are inspired by our modern thought teacher, Don Miguel Ruiz, the Four Agreements. And these sun enlightenments read as such: one, be responsible for your resources. Two, take the state of our social and environmental and racial justice seriously. Three, do not wait for others, but do your part. And four, give your best and loving effort. And we will discuss our Sunshine Award and Fossil Shade. Although, before we get to that, we also want to cover some hot topics and let you know what's going on. So, have you guys been keeping track? And are you aware of that Hannah tropical storm? Some say it may even turn into a category one. So we definitely need to keep our eyes on Gonzala, Hannah, and some of these other tropical storms and even potentially a hurricane that is happening in the Gulf as nearing Texas. So we want to make sure we keep our eyes on those. There's also another one on the outskirts of Hawaii that I think that one's Hannah that will, because of the Pacific Cold Ocean, potentially may fizzle itself out. Another thing I found very interesting, and that is, did you guys hear about these very transformative housing solutions? Some former motels has transformed themselves into a transitional housing for the homeless that will help to occupy families as well as individuals. So we think this is a remarkable way in addressing our just undying need of addressing our homelessness. As well as, did you guys hear about the U.S. orders the closure for the Chinese consulate in Houston? Ooh, I don't know what this is going to bring, although we know we do not want to encourage tensions, but want to encourage democracy. So, just want to share that information as well. And you guys may have already heard that those weekly $600 federal unemployment checks may come to an end. And so we're looking at Congress as well as our U.S. Senate as they're starting to make those adjustments and address this next stimulus. So, making our announcements, our Environmental and Climate Justice Committee with the NAACP San Diego and ad hoc NAACP North San Diego County meets the first Tuesday of every month at 7 p.m. And so there we do address racial justice. We have a racial justice letter that we're going to get ready to send out. We help to lead the FERC petition against NARA, and that was very successful. And that was on a national level. And we also work with San Diego Green New Deal, as well as many other environmental, social, and racial justice issues in our local area, region, state, and as well as what's happening across the country. Also, what I want to make mention is that last Tuesday, San Diego 350 had their Just Recovery panel, and it was remarkable. You guys should check it out. I was also part of that panel. And this Thursday coming up, we have our Climate Hub Mixer, and it's this Thursday, July 30th at 5:30. And these are different environmental and climate justice organizations in the San Diego region area all coming together. And this is their inaugural mixer launch. You will hear from a student, Omar, from San Diego State University. You will hear from Chris. He works for an environmental law firm, and as well as myself. I'm also included on this panel. Now, on to the sunshine. Who is shining, you guys? So here in the state, we have a prosecutor, Jeff Rosen in Santa Clara. He wants to stop the use of the death penalty and work to end cash bail in attempt to make reforms after what happened to George Floyd. So we definitely want to keep our eyes on that and also want to support his efforts. In addition, here locally, did you guys hear about MTS announcement that they want zero emissions bus plan here in San Diego? So we definitely want to support those efforts. And also for the fossil shade, the ex-officer, police officer that murdered George Floyd, I don't know if you guys heard this as well, but he also has a 9 felony count of tax charge on his record. So that is something else. So I guess if you kill, you steal. So we are so excited about today's topic, our youth series. We're highlighting Clean Earth for Kids, as well as our community leader. She has been the president of NAACP's North San Diego County Youth Council. So we're going to get ready for our theme song and dive right into this topic. All right. So what I would like to do is just share their names and allow them to say a little bit of who they are and what they do in their respective areas. We have today Tiana Patterson. We have Leanna, Judith, Darren, Cadence, as well as, I said Judith, Leanna, I got everyone, and one of the leaders of, or the leader of Clean Earth for Kids, Susan Hume. She's an educator and she is the executive educational director for Clean Earth for Kids. They do remarkable work. They just recently had a guest from Harvard Law on their session. So, Susan, did you want to like chime in real quick as you introduce your group to us?
Oh, sure. Thank you so much for this fantastic opportunity. And I have to say that we've had Sonja on cleanearthforkids.org, our weekly panel discussion. And so Clean Earth for Kids is rooted in social justice, environmental justice. We've got 6 teams that are ready to take action on a local, state, national, international level. And we're excited to work with you. And I'm so excited for you to meet these fantastic panelists today. And we're so glad to also be joined by our friend Tiana. So thank you again so much.
Oh, absolutely. So, one of the first questions I want to ask is, can you share some goals that Clean Earth for Kids are working on? Leanna, can you share some of those things and why these goals are important to you?
Yeah, of course. So, hi everyone. My name is Leanna Cortez. I'm a youth board member here at Clean for Kids, as well as a team lead for Team One. So, just to kind of give a brief introduction as to what Clean for Kids is Clean for Kids is a 401c nonprofit. We are rooted in protecting clean air, clean water, public lands, anything related to the environment, and as well as social and environmental justice. Um, some of the things we're working on in our goals kind of reflect on just exactly what I mentioned earlier, protecting our water, our air, and trying to just promote a more sustainable and environmentally friendly future so that way the youth can have a beautiful earth to inherit, as well as learn more about more sustainable practices. A few things that we're working on, we work on climate action plans, which are these kind of frameworks that allow cities, states, school districts to take in more climate-friendly practices, as well as like reduce their greenhouse gas emissions. We're also working on climate curriculum, free climate curriculum for the state of California. So we're really excited about things like that. We also hope to ban toxic pesticides everywhere, whether that's in farms, used on public lands, or and like things like synthetic turf. That's a really active goal we have, especially since that was what Clean for Kids was founded on. Suzanne, our founder, she was poisoned by pesticides. So
Mm.
that's what started Clean for Kids. So we want to make sure that we ban all toxic pesticides, not only on a city and a state level, but also on a federal level. So we're working with a bunch of people on that as well.
Thank
And like I said, just education overall, it's really important to us because no one should lack access to clean air, water, or healthy soils. And no one should be disproportionately impacted by climate change and environmental issues. That's a really big issue, and that's why social and environmental justice is intertwined with all of our teams. So,
yes.
environmental justice and social justice are so interconnected. It's important that we address both issues and provide a healthy, clean, and safe environment for our generation and the generations to come.
Yes, yes, yes. So now I hope you guys understand why I am so excited about this panel, Our Youth, Our Future. Um, Tiana, I would like to ask you, can you share some goals and projects that you are also working on as we're addressing social and racial justice? I know you've been very active with Student Demand Action as well as the Youth Council for the NAACP North San Diego County branch as well.
Yes, thank you for starters for having me on the show. I'm really
Yes.
excited. And as a background of what the NAACP's mission statement is shall inform the youth of the problems affecting African Americans and other racial ethnic minorities and the advance economic, educational, and social and political status of African Americans and other racial and ethnic minorities. So you guys can tell right now at the times of Black Lives Matter is approaching, it's been really heavy on our hearts that we've been out there in the communities, making sure we're reaching out to ensure that the people in our communities are being educated. Some things that we've done so far is with both NAACP and Student Demand Action, we work hand in hand together. So we do a lot of the same activities. And so one thing we did was the Ahmaud Avery virtual protest. And we came together with also Moms Demand Action, and we all wore red shirts and white shoes. And we came out and we just said, we walk with you, Ahmaud Avery, we run with you, Ahmaud Avery.
Yes.
And that was one of our first things we did. And then we also participated in a lot of the virtual protests that's been going on along a line on national level through the NAACP and as well as Students Demand Action. They're always online, and we're always having trainings and protests that are virtually being done, and as well as webinars. And they're all geared towards helping social justice, especially with fighting police brutality right now. And then another thing that we did was a candle protest in Oceanside area. And that was really nice. And it was a good way to just get the community and bring unity in this desperate times. And that's a couple of the things that we've been doing as far as social justice and the protests with Black Lives Matter.
Yes.
Some other things that we've been doing as far as making sure that we have social justice being talked about in our community is we're working on a form.
Okay.
Sorry, community.
Take your time.
Form.
Yeah, yeah.
So one thing we're working on is a community forum, and we want to create a healthy dialogue, like I said, between the youth and the law enforcement, and also just between all of us as an NAACP organization. So we're working on a forum, and we're going to be having a lot to talk, especially highlighting what does defunding the police look like?
Mm-hmm.
Do we want that in our communities? What do we want to see happening with these police trainings? How can we create a better relationship between our police and our youth? And so those are a couple of the things that we'll be highlighting on that. And our new president of the NAACP, she just received an award for race relations from Princeton University.
Yes.
Her name's Destiny Perkins, and we're really excited
Awesome.
about that too.
Yes, that's exciting. All right. Thank you for sharing. I mean, you guys are really, on the lines and your agendas are probably more full than a lot of adults. So thank you for all the work you're doing. So I have another question that I would like to ask Judith. Can you explain to our viewers why we need NEPA, which is the National Environmental Policy Act, and why does it mean a lot to you? Why does NEPA mean a lot to you, Judith?
Yes, NEPA, National Environmental Policy Act, has been around for 50 years. This we need NEPA because it gives the public a voice. NEPA tells people who live in an area the environmental impacts of what a federal government project would do, and this would allow the public to say no to this project. And yes, without NEPA, people would not be informed and would not be given a voice. Unfortunately, it's currently in process of being rolled back. So the Trump administration is taking away our power to have public comments, and we must be heard and take action to protect our public lands, our animals, and our water, and our air. And yeah, so we
Great.
must have NEPA, and we must have a voice.
Awesome. So I know one of the things that is very important when I think of Clean Earth for Kids, I think of a lot, but one of the topics that come to mind strongly, which Leanna mentioned earlier, is pesticides. So I would like to ask this question to Darren as well as Cadence and maybe be able to chime in, which is I know that pesticides are very, is an active topic and initiative for Clean Earth for Kids. Can you explain if there are some clean alternatives to pesticides? And how does the use of pesticides affect air quality as well as like youth brain development? Some of our listeners are unaware of this. Can you educate us on this?
Yeah, I can go. I can start. So one way that we like to approach this is by urging our cities, our school boards, our states to implement an integrated pest management plan, and those basically outline all of the alternatives to pesticides. So first, one of the things is manual or mechanical work. You can pull the weeds out yourself. You can have pest traps, things like that. You can also introduce a beneficial species, which could be something that preys on the bug or pest that you want to get rid of, or it could compete with that species and drive them out, things like that. You can also change the environment. So for example, if there are pests indoors, you could change the temperature of the room, things like that. And then if you must use like some sort of substance, you can use steam, hot water, vinegar, things like that, just to get rid of some weeds. And then if none of those work, then the last resort would be pesticides. So those plans are important, in my opinion, just because not only do they show that the city is dedicated to public health and the environment, but they keep people accountable. So if someone is not following the plan, or if they are going straight to pesticides without considering all the other options, we can say, hey, there's a plan in place. You're not supposed to be doing that. So we can, there's a way to stop pesticides from being used if they have not considered all the other options. And
Great.
questions. Oh, sorry, go ahead.
No, go ahead.
To answer your question about how pesticides affect air quality, so there's microbes in the soil, and a few of those are algae, which absorb carbon from the atmosphere. And then when those decompose, the carbon is released into the soil. And then there are other microbes, for example, a type of fungi called fungi, and those are attached to plant roots. And they take in that carbon and they hold it there, and they can also give it to the plants. And soil microbes are responsible for a lot of carbon sequestration or absorption. Soil absorbs more carbon than plants in the atmosphere have combined. And so pesticides are a big threat to soil microbes. They are killing a large number of them in agriculture where they're being used. So not only is this bad for the plants, they don't have enough carbon and other nutrients, but it's also bad for air quality.
So I feel like I just registered for a college level course You did amazing. I am literally, I'm going to replay this and take notes because you really just educated me on this topic that in a depth way that I knew it was harmful to our environment, but to the level you provided information, you just fabulous. Thank you so much. And Cadence, would you be able to weigh in a little bit on this question too? Would you like me to restate it or?
Um, I'd actually like to talk about some of the harmful effects pesticides can have on like the health of humans.
Mm-hmm.
Some of them would include short-term adverse health effects, which would be stinging eyes, blindness, blisters, nausea, dizziness, and death. And
Hmm.
there's also chronic effects like cancers, birth defects, reproductive harm, and neurological and developmental toxicity.
Wow.
And children living in areas with heavy pesticide use had strikingly impaired hand-eye coordination,
Hmm.
decreased physical stamina, short-term memory impairment, and trouble drawing. And this is a quote taken from the Natural Resource Defense Council in 2014.
Wow. I think you, again, just something that a lot of us are unaware of. Susan, I see you nodding your head. Did you want to just chime in here for a second?
Uh, yes, absolutely. Thank you so much to Darren, Cadence, and all of you and everybody working at the local level, the state level, the national and international level on this very important issue. As was mentioned, I was poisoned by pesticides and had to move from my home. I still have a lung condition because of this, and so I'm very sensitive to smoke and fires. I'll just drop to the ground, even if there's a barbecue or someone's having a great time and it's a bonfire. So this is very serious. I was sent to Scripps and then to UCSD, and so I have all my paperwork that says pesticide poisoning, and I could endure no more pesticide exposure. And so I had to, as I said, move from my home. And the guilt that I have as a survivor, because I had the resources and the privilege to be able to move from my home. So my husband and I went from two jobs to one. I started Clean Earth for Kids. Um, Hannah Smith and others, so many youth and volunteers and everybody came together and helped get the helicopter stopped. So the county of San Diego leases land to a tomato field, and Cadence can give a lot more information. She's working on a project. We all work together, but she's talked with her principal and she can give you more information about what's happening there because the field is so close to the school and so close to homes within less than a fourth of a mile. And so we'll be talking with the governor as well. He's very interested in this issue, and lots of good are happening. But right now, we're a little disappointed with the county of San Diego. Well, more than that, we're really disappointed with Ags Weights and Measures from the county of San Diego because they're pushing back. So we were really happy to have the support of fabulous Board of Supervisors, Nathan Fletcher, right? He's such a champion for all of us, and just wow. And Diane Jacobs as well. They stepped up and requested public records to see exactly what was being used on these leased lands that are in our neighborhoods, right? And so in the county of San Diego. And what we discovered, and the youth have been in this in every step of the way, and they can talk more about that. They use important trackers from the state of California, like trackingcalifornia.org, OEHA, and others, to discover all of the toxic pesticides that are being used in the county of San Diego and how many of these are banned in China and other countries. So they're on it. They've got the data. They know what to do.
Well, I know Clean Earth for Kids is on it.
Yeah, we're on it. So we're on it. We're doing our best to get this. We would love community support. You can reach out to us at cleanearthforkids.org. You can text, call, however it is. We absolutely need your support, and we're very grateful to PAN, Pesticide Action Network, Beyond Pesticides. We also are grateful for the important work that's been done by Harvard. Mm-hmm. And as Leanna mentioned before with the tracker, and Judith, the 100 rollbacks. Harvard tracker tracks this rollback that was done by the Trump administration.
Yeah, I was going to ask one of our youth about that, Leanna. So, which is that okay for Leanna to kind of chime in on that?
Absolutely. Go in there. Jump in there. Absolutely.
So my question, Leanna, is if you can explain this rollback tracker for our viewers what that means? Why is it important to track these rollbacks for regulatory rollbacks and climate deregulation tracker? Now, I had the privilege just this week to watch these children, this youth, excuse me, interact with a Harvard law and relate that helped develop this rollback tracker. And so watching this dialogue between them and her was just remarkable. So Leanna and Cadence, I think Cadence me wanted to start off on sharing what rollback trackers mean so our viewers have more of an understanding on that.
Yeah. So the regulatory rollback tracker was created by Harvard's Environmental and Energy Law program, and they're tracking environmentally regulatory rollbacks of the Trump administration. On their website, there's a table that connects the viewer to pages that describe the history of each rule and the current status, and rollback efforts, including litigation and court decisions. Some examples of these rollbacks would include the weekend greenhouse gas standards for passenger cars and light trucks, replace the Clean Power Plan, which would have set strict limits on carbon emissions from coal and gas-fired power plants, with a new version that would let states set their own rules. They also canceled a requirement for oil and gas companies to report methane emissions, and they revised and partially repeated a rule limiting methane emissions on public lands, including intentional venting and flaring from drilling operations. Methane is the second most potent greenhouse gas, and it's a problem because it increases temperatures. And it's so important to track these rollbacks because of how they impact all of us, which is everyone in the United States and the world, in such a harmful way. For example, the rollbacks on methane emissions increases the amount of methane in our atmosphere, resulting in rising temperatures, which leads to climate change. Additionally, a high concentration of this greenhouse gas can displace oxygen in the air, and with lower oxygen levels, symptoms like rapid breathing, rapid heart rate, fatigue, and others can occur.
Thank you for sharing that. That's really, really great. So, Leanna, can you share how these rollbacks, well, Candace did a great job in explaining how it can impact us, but did you have any other thoughts on this topic and the information that was shared? Because there's like a hundred rollbacks now, right? So on
Yeah.
this tracker, we have at least 100 rollbacks, and there are like three different categories or major subcategories, correct? Well, go ahead, Leanna. You could chime in and
I think she's frozen.
oh, she got frozen.
So
Okay.
I think
Okay,
she,
hello,
There
can
she
you
is.
hear me
oh, there
now?
you go.
Okay.
There you
Yeah.
go.
Okay.
Okay.
Hi.
Awesome.
So yeah, I would love to kind of just touch more upon that. For me, these rollbacks, and just for all of us, Clean for Kids, are really important to discuss because I think when you're, especially during the times of COVID-19 and quarantine, a lot of people are extremely busy of
Uh-oh. I think it sounds like her.
some
Oh, there she goes.
people have time now than ever since they're working at home to research and educate themselves more. And so I, for one, wasn't educated about or didn't know about these rollbacks at all until we found this tracker. And I think it's important that a lot of these rollbacks are or a lot of these protections are being rolled back or done during the time of COVID-19. And it's like, since we're all concerned about like a global pandemic, a lot of environmental protections are being stripped away under our nose. So I think it's important for us to use this tracker and see what's really happening under the current administration and the current EPA, and educate ourselves and kind of see what we can do about it. Some of these rollbacks or these legislations, they have public comment open, so you can send in a comment and how you feel about the situation. And the tracker does a great job of telling us where the current legislation is, if it's already undone, if it's in progress, or if it's waiting. And I think if you guys would like to see the tracker, the link is on our website at cleanforkids.org if you'd like. We use Harvard and Columbia's tracker, and they're really great resources, I think, for everybody to get educated during these times and really see what's going on in our country. Because like Kaden said, it doesn't not only affects us, it affects other countries. Because ultimately what we do will impact the atmosphere, and the atmosphere has no country borderlines at all. So
Right. Good point. Excellent. I appreciate you sharing that. And even as you're bringing up like COVID-19 and within that spirit, Tiana, I want to ask you with COVID-19 and the things that the youth are doing in addressing, our social justice, even dealing with our health with the organizations you're part of. Can you share some of those activities that are happening?
Yes. So one big thing that we got to do was work with Operation Hope and Solutions for Teens. And we made masks and then we gave out the masks to the less fortunate families in those organizations. And that was a really great opportunity for us to be able to give back and feed into our community in that way in these desperate times. And we also reached out to all of the elders in the NAACP because we're the youth, but there's also the adult branch. So we reached out to the adults and because we know that there's a lot of older people that are in the organization, and we wanted to make sure that they were safe if they needed anything. And also people are just really like lonely right now because they don't really have anywhere to go. So we just wanted to check in on people and make sure that they were doing okay. And then as far as youth ourselves, we have been talking with each other, having different kinds of conversations and just trying to stay engaged with each other and make sure that everyone feels like they still have someone to talk to, even though it can feel lonely being in the house.
Yeah, that's great. That's a good, very good point. And glad to see that our youth are really on the front line, engaged and active, and not just sitting on the sideline, but they are living up with our Sun Enlightenments are. And that is, don't wait for others, do your part, what you can do to make our life and improve the quality of our lives. So I do want to, we talked about, during the pandemic, we talked about, the use of plastic and different alternatives. Is there anyone that want to share some of their thoughts just in general of how you're feeling about the pandemic and how this pandemic even correlates with the pollution in the air and things of that nature? Is there someone on the panel from Clean Earth for Kids would like to chime in on that?
Sure, I can start, and then Leanna can talk more. So yes, the use of plastics is on the rise with COVID-19. The concern is that, of course, plastic can, sorry, COVID-19 virus can live on plastic longer than cardboard or paper bags. So we're using this plastic, and it's actually, because it's such a hard surface, it lives on that surface longer. So it's not a good idea or a healthy alternative. Plastic is choking our oceans, and the burning of fossil fuels really contributes to air pollution, water pollution. Fracking is a problem. So of course, it's just a terrible idea. We need to get away from the plastic. I'd love to give a shout out to Surfrider. So Surfrider has a program. So it's OFR, Ocean Friendly Restaurants. And when you go on Team 6, you're going to see Judith, woo woo, and Kevin and Hannah and so many others talking with restaurants that are reducing the use of plastics. And so we partner with Surfrider as we partner with so many other organizations. And we've done video clips, and shout out to Darren for doing so many of our video clips and so much editing. And thank you to all volunteers. So we have those on Team 6 and some ideas for reducing plastics and zero waste. We have upcoming panel discussions. One of our discussions we'll be having is with Dr. Sarah Jean Royer, one of our consultants. And so the BBC did an article about her talking about how plastic emits methane. And so she's a researcher with Scripps Institute of Oceanography, and she can talk about the devastating effects of plastics and what all is going on. So we may even have it this Thursday, so you can check us out. So Leanna, what would you like to add?
Oh, so I was just gonna kind of mention the thing about COVID-19 and plastic as well. I think just the nature of COVID-19 overall has us consuming more plastic, consuming more materials that are or they break down. They don't break down easily, and so it kind of opens our like minds to how much plastic and how much waste we produce, as well as our energy sources that we're relying on. We're relying on fossil fuels. And so I think um, not only is it a good time for us to kind of think about how we can reduce our waste and how we can use alternatives, but also think about our energy consumption. Since everyone's inside, we're on our computers a lot, we're using our lights a lot. We're always, most of the time we're inside because of quarantine, and so we're using a lot of energy, and we have to think about where the energy comes from.
That's
And
right.
a lot of that's from fossil fuels. So that includes natural gas, coal, oil, and so many others. And we have to think about how we need to switch to sustainable and renewable sources like
Yes.
solar, wind, hydro, and so many others. And so I think it kind of gives us a good idea of the direction we need to go into. And I
Yes.
love how a lot of this stuff is really connected also to social justice.
Yes.
So COVID-19 has really brought a light about social justice issues and environmental justice issues and how they're connected. So, for example, if we're talking about energy sources, right? Coal and oil industries and those factories and those
Bring it.
mines, a lot
Yes.
of those are located to
Where?
these neighborhoods and these
That's
communities. And
right.
the people that live in those communities and neighborhoods are low income or communities of color or both.
Mm-hmm.
And so we're really showing this environmental injustice and social injustice and how they're more susceptible to air pollution, to water pollution,
Yes.
just heat islands, and so many other things. And they are impacting these communities disproportionately. And it causes them to have like respiratory issues, which
Mm-hmm.
goes back to COVID-19. People
Yes.
who already have pre-existing respiratory issues are more likely to get it. And these people are also working hard, going to work to provide for their families. They're more likely to get it then. So it just perpetuates this cycle of inequality in these communities, and it is entirely unfair. And we need to address it, and we need to address it at a full force. And I think that really starts with educating our fellow youth to take action and to really just go for it.
Oh my goodness, I'm so inspired. Now, do you guys understand why I'm so excited about having this panel and just so inspired and have hope for our future? Listening to these voices, they're young voices, but powerful voices, speak on this. Leanna, you brought it. Thank you so much. It is my passion as well. I echo what you said. And there is facts that support that the number one indicator of where toxins are located is based on race. So you're absolutely correct. And that is what helps motivate me in the space of environmental and climate justice, knowing that we also are addressing our racial, our social, economic justice, and equity. And how are we able to leverage this movement of environmental and climate justice towards a more equitable community, collective community, where we bring up the communities that have suffered, communities that look like me, right? That have suffered historically in this country. So I'm so inspired. So now I want to hear the voice also to chime in on this. I want to hear Candace. I also want to hear Tiana and whoever else want to chime in on this. But Candace, so Leanna gave us a really good segue into this, but I also want to ask about how you promote racial justice through this climate awareness, right? And so she shared already how they're connected. But there's something else I found so unique of what you guys do with Clean Earth for Kids, and that's that hand activities. And if you can talk about those hand activities that you use as a tool to bring awareness of the social justice to our communities, can you share about that, the work that you're doing with these hand activities?
Yeah, actually, my friend Chelsea, she's one of my closest friends, and we go to the same high school, and we've known each other since freshman year. She actually helped to make the Hands project, and she presented on the panel discussion on last Thursday to Harvard and to everyone who was attending. And this is a great project for students and people of all ages to write, draw, design, create art or video clips to remember greatness of those working for a better life. She created beautiful and detailed 3D hand sculptures along with a flyer that contains detailed instructions as to how to create your own hands project. So the first step is to write a story or a poem, to draw and design a hand on paper or create a hand digitally or make a 3D model. Then take a picture and email your work to Hands at Clean Earth for Kids to participate in this contest. And then you can see your work, which we'll be posting along with everyone else's work.
Thank you so much, Cadence. And I believe there is some handwork that you guys worked on related to farm workers, John Lewis, even Harriet Tubman. Tiana, I would like to hear your thoughts on this movement that you've been able to witness, here from your lens, being a young adult, seeing the experience of our communities before and since the tragic death of George Floyd and the protests of Black Lives Matter. I would love to hear, this directly from your heart and your voice as we are, transitioning our some of this discussion from environmental climate justice as it intersects with social and racial justice. Can you provide some of your thoughts on this matter as well?
Yes. So the Black Lives Matter movement, I'm glad that it's getting so much attention finally, because, we've been asking for this for years now. This isn't a new issue. This is an issue that's been happening to Black people since they've been on this country, been in this country, been brought to this country. And so I'm really excited to see that there's so much more youth, so many different types of people getting involved into this movement. And they're really saying, like, enough is enough. We're far from being where we need to be, but it's a start. And I really believe that our youth, us, we're going to make a difference. We're going to be that change. I'm really fired up to see what we're going to do, because I believe in us. I believe that we are not going to, we see the mistakes that our people in the past have made, and we see the things that they've done right. And we know we have the tools to become better than what we've seen in the past. And I'm just ready to do that. And I'm just ready to be that better.
So can you
I
share
think
with
that
me?
what's,
Can you share with me some? Just out of curiosity, if you're comfortable with it, what are some of the mistakes that you have observed that you guys are self-correcting? Do you have any observations on that, or anything that
sorry, you said what
some
was
of
it?
the mistakes, that you're saying that you've seen in the past that that the generation is self-correcting to address
Yes.
to move forward?
So one thing is, in the past, we would stand for letting statues of racist people of our history. We would allow that, but now we see people out there saying this statue of this person is not okay. We don't want to see this person. This person wasn't a good representation of what America should be, because
That's
that's
right.
not what America should be standing for. It may be what America did, but it shouldn't happen. And so this person, since is the result of why it happened, it needs to be taken down. So I
That's
think
an
that's one
excellent.
thing that we've done
That's
that's
a
really great.
yeah. That's an excellent
And
example.
sorry.
I said that no. I said that's I said that's an excellent example where the generations before, turned a blind eye to it, but where you guys are saying that, first and foremost, the Confederate, side of the war lost, right, and it shouldn't
Mhm.
represent, and it doesn't represent equality for all. So I think you did a great job in sharing that example of what our generations have done that was not correct, and where you guys are correcting that.
Yeah. Um, and then, oh my gosh. Sorry, I feel so
She was on a roll. My apologies. I should have
think.
just let you roll.
um, dang.
We'll come back. How about that?
All right.
We'll definitely come back. So one of the things I wanted to highlight too is that the educational piece that Clean Earth for Kids do, right? So you guys work on the curriculum that I think is really important, and this word really needs to get out. So as you're focusing on environmental education through our youth, which is just, I mean, Susan, I got to give it up to you. I mean, this is brilliant. I appreciate that you're working with them so well. What role does our younger generation play in engaging in this climate justice, which we can see, but if others can share on this climate curriculum, I think Leanna may be able to share on that as well as Darren. Would you be able to talk about the educational curriculum on environmental justice?
Yeah, of course. So I'll just start off a little bit. So yeah, Clean for Kids does focus on environmental education. That's, I think, is takes top priority over everything else, because I think kind of like what Taina was saying about like correcting certain things. I think we don't want to normalize a world where there's social injustices and where there's environmental injustices and when there's a lack of environmental education. So we don't want to normalize that. So we want to move past it. And I think environmental education and social justice education and the interconnectedness between both of them is super important. So one thing that we are working on is free climate curriculum for the state of California. So what we're doing is we're taking the next generation science standards and Common Core standards, and we're taking those and we're pinpointing which ones kind of directly correlate to climate change, climate justice, environmental and social justice. And we're taking that and we're focusing that, as well as the United Nations SCGs. We're taking all of those things and we're creating this curriculum that teachers can use for free to educate their students on not on climate and social and environmental justice and just climate change overall, because I don't think it's discussed enough in schools. And I think it's really important that we discuss on this so that way the youth can come up with solutions for the future. And just on a broader topic, the role that the younger generation plays in engaging the public in climate justice is that I feel like youth kind of influence the future and other generations through like this domino effect. So once we get the youth engaged, so we have us, we're the ones, protesting, we're the ones educating, we're the ones speaking out. When we're able to do that within our own generation, we can try and influence the generations before us, but most importantly, influencing the generations that are going to come after us. And so I think education is the root of all change, and it will just cause a domino effect. So Darren, if you'd like to also talk a little bit more about things we do at Clean for Kids, that'd be great.
Yeah. So when I started working with Clean for Kids, I did not know nearly as much as I do now. And that's primarily just because of me having to do all this research and staying informed on a lot of these issues in order to be able to communicate with different people. So what we like to do here is just like pay it forward, So all of the information that we learn about every week, we share with our panel discussions. And we also have some videos that I created for the climate curriculum that talk about the soil health that I talked about earlier. And we try to cater these to different age groups as well, just because some age groups, like, they want to stay informed, but we don't want to overwhelm them with negative information or just a lot chock full of information. So just spreading it out between ages so that when they get older, they can really start digging deep. And the other thing I want to talk about is videos in general. So the youth, a lot of times, we use social media and the internet a lot. So one of the ways that we can reach out to other youth and also give youth a platform is with YouTube and Instagram videos and things like that. So we have some people from Clean for Kids, for example, Sydney recently created a video about environmental justice and food waste. She's not here with us today, but her videos were amazing. I had the pleasure of editing them. And so if these people want to learn more, it's a lot more accessible, a lot more condensed now. You don't have to go out and do your own research, which I think is fun, but for the most people, it's probably easier just to watch a video. So I think that's a really important medium.
Excellent, excellent. And Judith, I would love for you to share with us what you do with your Call It Out challenge. Can you explain to us what this call to action is and how you actually implement it?
Yes. So the Call It Out challenge is it's actually one of our many challenges and contests that we have. We also have the K-12 contest where K-12 students can create art, music, write songs, raps, poems, write adventure stories, and make some video clips. We also have No Idling sign contest, which I have recently done. I've drawn no idling signs with children's art that would remind people to or drivers to turn their engines off when they are parked. And yes, these no idling signs would be placed on metal poles, reminding those drivers to turn their engines off. And we also have these are the hands contest, which Cadence explained very well. And we also have so many more contests. But the Call It Out challenge is basically where you call out like pollution of our air, water, public lands, endangered species. And you can also call out rollbacks. Like, for example, like about 2 weeks ago, I called out Andrew Wheeler. I stated my name and I stated his name. I stated my name and I stated the issue. So I guess I could show you a quick example right now. Yes, is
Okay.
that okay?
Yeah.
Okay. Okay, so hello, my name is Judith, and I'm going to call out Andrew Wheeler. Andrew Wheeler is a former coal lobbyist who now leads the EPA, Environmental Protection Agency. The EPA took away MATS, mercury and air toxic standards. The EPA is supposed to protect our health and our environment, and they're doing the complete opposite. They're harming our health, and they and MATS has actually saved thousands of lives. And so the purpose of MATS is basically to protect all children and communities from mercury and other air toxics that are released from these coal power plants or power plants. And what the Trump administration is doing is that they are making it seem like they are kind of changing the math behind the way these rules are created. They're making it seem like the costs are outweighing the benefits. Well, in contrast, when President Obama when he was president, the EPA created a finding that made it seem like the benefits outweighed the costs. The benefits consist of the thousands of lives that were saved by MATS, but the Trump administration doesn't consider thousands of lives that it has saved, and so MATS is really important. And I am inviting you we should all join together and demand that the EPA should restore MATS protection today, because we need a healthier environment, clean air, clean water, and a cleaner planet.
Yes, thank you, Judith. Man, I love that what is it called? The call out challenge. It's like what I use as our fossil shade. I think I want to hire you. You did a great, great, great job. And this for our viewers, MATS is mercury and air toxic standards. And so this is one area that Judith is very passionate about, and this is something that she follows, and she uses even artwork, right, to show people what these. Did you want to talk a little bit more about that, Judith? She's going to show us. Yes, this is great.
I also have one right now. I can yes.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
mercury
yeah,
hurts
mercury
brains.
and air toxic standards. I already discussed about it.
Right.
Yes, this is really important because it saves lives, and mercury can be transmitted into the rivers and oceans where kids and people in general play in, and mercury can be transferred into their lungs, and it can lead to diseases, lung cancer, asthma, and so many more. And this is really important protection that we need to work on bringing back.
Absolutely. And I would love to extend myself to you as well, of course, with Susan. And as we are collaborating, Susan is also a member of our environmental and Climate Justice Committee with the NAACP. I hope our viewers and listeners are feeling inspired as I do. I mean, I'm just like gushing inside over our youth and feel so hopeful for who they are, and that they have such a voice of courage, a voice of standards, a voice of morality that, those that have inputted and just planted seeds in them. I hope their parents and as well as our greater community are just as proud as I feel right now. You guys almost moved me to tears. So thank you for sharing and just being who you are. This is just wonderful. I have another question I want to ask, but before I do, actually, I want Susan, I want to give it over to you real quick. I want you to share whatever you really want to share that we may not have been able to cover that is important to the movement that we're working on.
Well, I would love to echo what you said. Yes, I'm so impressed by these amazing youth and the hours that they put in. So instead of watching a movie or, hanging out, watching videos, they are on the Harvard tracker looking to see the rollbacks and trying to protect people's lives. They are working on artwork. They're making videos. They're collaborating with others. They're lifting people up and educating them wherever they are. So that's so important. They're grateful, they're gracious, they're courageous, and I love them. So I'm so incredibly proud and of all of our youth, and a shout out also to our fabulous interns. We have interns from all over the country. We have interns at Notre Dame. We have interns at UNC, of course, UCSD, UCLA, Georgetown, Cal State San Marcos. I mean, it goes on and on. And the reason because it resonates with people who care, people who are going into public health, people who are, just who they care about others. And so they want to have a voice. And so they join us and work on their own individual projects, what is meaningful to them. So we have 6 teams, as Leanna said, and as others did as well, plus social justice and environmental justice is embedded in all we do. So they can get academic credit through their university, community service, high school, all of that, or join us as a volunteer or work with us in another organization and join our teams and really help propel these important movements. So I am so proud of all of them for taking the lead on all of these important issues, and to be shouted out on Twitter by Harvard Law.
My goodness. I mean, whew.
I know I texted Judith and I said, all of them, I texted all of them, but I just would like to share Judith's response when I said, Harvard Law just tweeted you out on Twitter and talked about, you're talking about Nepa, you're talking about MATS, we've talked about Endangered Species Act and so many more, chlorpyrifos, Darren and Cadence and others name leading this fight. And it is a morality issue and an ethics issue. As Judith said, the fact that a coal lobbyist is heading our EPA, Environmental Protection Agency, that's just not okay. Trump made that happen.
Right.
Trump has put these people in charge. And so we are we're fired up. We're going to call it out, but we're excited to work together and share the joy and love and collaboration and work together to make change. Thank you so much.
Thank you. And I just want to kind of wrap things up in sharing that Clean Earth for Kids also have several petitions that they're working on. I'm sure I'm going to miss some of them, but I know there's one for the bees. There's one for the pesticides. There's one for the coal and the other toxins. So feel free to visit their website and, and sign their petitions as we're working together to scale up our neighborhoods. I hope you guys feel inspired by our youth. Next week, we'll be hearing our topic of mental health. So this is going to be a very necessary and just topic as well. And again, we are so proud to have all you guys join us. Thank you so much. You guys will be back. I know you will. You look forward to see even Tiana's face. I'm sure she'll be around as we, you guys kicked off our youth series, and I couldn't be happier to have you on our panel. Thank you so much for joining us today on S.U.N Sustainable Urban Network. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. All right. Thank you, guys. Oh.
Woo, okay, great job, you guys. Wow, thank you so much, Sonia, for this